ISKCON Halifax.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Please accept my obeisances, Jai Prabhupada.
Hey, Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday Learning Bhagavatam class. Today, we're going to speak on Canto 9, Liberation, Chapter 4, Ambarisa Maharaj offended by Durashi Muni, and our guest speaker is none other than Madana-gopāla Prabhuji. Welcome, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Over to you.
Hare Krishna, thank you, Dharmendra Prabhu, and welcome, dear devotees. So first of all, I want to sincerely thank all the amazing devotees of the ISKCON London Soho Temple for inviting me to be part of this very special forum, especially Dharmendra Prabhu for coordinating this as well. It's so deeply inspiring. There's something inspiring about what you're doing here, systematically exploring entire chapters of the Srimad Bhagavatam in a thoughtful, devotional, and thorough way. In our world where attention is fragmented and spirituality is often reduced to, sound bites, this kind of deep, patient, reverential study is not just rare, it's transformational. It reflects a genuine desire not just to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam, but to enter into it, to live with it, to allow it to shape our consciousness from within. So I feel very grateful and honored to be among all of you today. Now, as we turn to this particular chapter, we're not just stepping into a story from a distant time. Get this here. We are stepping into a profound revelation about the nature of devotion itself. Because in this chapter, everything we think we understand about things like power, spirituality, and even God gets turned on its head. We see a mighty sage, Durvasa Muni, whose mystic power is so great that even the universe trembles before him. People run away helplessly in fear. We will see the greatest controllers of the cosmos, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, unable to offer protection. And the most astonishing of all, we will see the Supreme Lord himself declare something that is almost inconceivable. That he is not independent. That he is controlled. By what? Let's find out. So today we enter into this very extraordinary, one of the most emotionally powerful chapters in the entire Bhagavatam. We see Durvasa, so much power, he's running for his life. We see the greatest controls, like, of course, like I mentioned, Shiva, Brahma, they can't help him. And then, of course, Lord Vishnu himself says what? I am not independent. I am completely controlled by my devotees. So just pause and let that settle in. The Supreme Being who controls everything at all levels, at the cosmic scale and at the microscopic scale. He is declaring that he is controlled not by strength, not by knowledge, not by austerity, but by love. So this chapter is not simply a historical narration. For us, it's a deep revelation of the heart of bhakti. It shows us what kind of devotion attracts Krishna so deeply that he willingly becomes subordinate to his devotee. And as we go through this chapter today, the goal is not just to understand what happened. The goal is to reflect on how Maharaja Ambarish lived and how we can gradually move toward that same mood of devotion in our own lives. So to really appreciate this chapter, it helps to see how beautifully it unfolds. It begins with the story of Nabhag, which may seem like a simple background story, but it actually establishes the foundation of integrity and surrender. From there, we are introduced to Maharaj Ambarish, whose life becomes a living example of perfect devotional practice. And in the midst of living such immense opulence, he's able to just be simple-hearted devotee. And finally, the chapter culminates in this dramatic and intense encounter between Ambarish and Durvasa Muni, which reveals the supreme position of the devotee. Throughout all of these sections, one theme quietly but powerfully runs through everything. And see if you can catch elements of it. That devotion to the Lord is higher than power, higher than knowledge, higher than influence, higher than mysticism, because it controls the Lord. It's quite outstanding, quite astounding. So the story begins with Nabhag. And at first glance, it may feel like a side narrative, almost like a prelude before the main story begins. But actually, and many devotees may not even know this story. Everybody knows the Ambarish story and Durvasa, but this one is not so much narrated. But if you look carefully, this section is quietly setting the entire tone for everything that follows. Now, Nabhag had been away for a long time, living in the Gurukul, absorbed in study and discipline, service to his spiritual master. Years pass in that environment. And when he finally returns home, you can almost imagine the anticipation. He is coming back not just to a place, but to a family, to a kingdom, to what should naturally be his inheritance. But instead of being welcomed into that space, he walks into something quite shocking. His brothers, assuming that he would never return or would never take up household life, he'll just stay brahmachari, stay in the forest. His brothers already divided the entire kingdom, estate, if you will, the whole inheritance amongst themselves. Everything has been claimed. Everything has been allocated, everything has been settled without him. And then comes a moment that feels almost surreal. When Nabhag asks very simply, "What is my share?" They respond, "Your share? Your share is our father. He's your property." Just pause and think about that. It is not just unfair. It is dismissive, almost casually cruel. The sense of being overlooked, excluded, even taken advantage of. His own brothers. And this is where the story becomes powerful. Because Nabhag's response is not what you would expect. respect. There's no argument. There's no resentment. No attempt to fight for what is rightfully his. He doesn't try to assert himself or correct the injustice in a confrontational kind of way. Instead, he turns toward his father, not in complaint, but in humility. He seeks clarity. He seeks guidance. And his father, seeing the situation, clearly tells him, Nabag, this is cheating. I'm not your property. But rather than encouraging him to reclaim the inheritance, his father gives him a completely different path. He directs him toward a sacrificial arena where great sages are performing a yajna. And he instructs him to assist them in a specific way. Now imagine this. Instead of reclaiming a kingdom, Nabag goes to serve, to do seva at a sacrifice. So humbly he follows instruction, faithfully, without hesitation. He assists the sages, recites the mantras as is directed. And when the sacrifice is complete, the sages, being pleased, offer him all the remaining wealth. Now these mantras were given to him by his father, and he actually helped the sages complete the sacrifice. The sages are very, very pleased. They're like, wow, wonderful. We couldn't have done it without you. All the wealth that came from this, it's all yours. And it's a lot of wealth that came out of it. Like tons. At this point, it seems like everything has been resolved. But then just as he begins to accept this wealth, another dramatic moment unfolds. Mysterious, dark-complexioned figure appears and says, all of this belongs to me. This is Lord Shiva testing him. Now again, Nabag could have argued. He could have said, hey, these sages gave this to me. This is mine. But instead, what does he do? He goes back to his father and verifies the truth. And when he understands that this wealth indeed belongs to Lord Shiva, because it was actually Lord Shiva's fire sacrifice, it was in his name. So then he goes back and he bows down and he simply offers everything. No resistance, no hesitation, no inner bargaining. He bows his head and surrenders. In that moment, everything shifts. Lord Shiva becomes deeply pleased, very impressed. Not only does he affirm the truth, but he gives Nabag the very wealth that he had just renounced. And he gave him a bonus of transcendental knowledge. If you remember in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says nothing greater than transcendental knowledge. It's like the greatest gift you can give. So, what Nabag did not claim, he receives. What he did not fight for, he is given. What he did not demand is blessed upon him. And this is where the deeper lesson emerges. In our own lives, we often feel that we must secure our position, protect our rights, assert ourselves to ensure fairness. There's a natural instinct to control outcomes, to make sure we are not overlooked or taken advantage of. And there's nothing wrong with that, actually, but Nabag is showing a completely different paradigm. When one acts with integrity, humility, and surrender, Krishna arranges in ways that are far beyond our own calculations. What we try to grasp tightly often slips away. But what we offer with sincerity returns in a much higher form. So the story is not about passivity, it's about trust. A deep, quiet trust that when we align ourselves with dharma and devotion, the ultimate arrangement is not in our hands, but in Krishna's hands. And that arrangement is always better. Now from Nabag, his son appears, Maharaja Ambarisa. And the stage is set for one of the greatest examples of devotional life. So you can imagine the level of humility that Nabag showed. And so Ambarish also kind of inherited that. Ambarish was not an ordinary king. No. He's the emperor of the entire world. Emperor means, king of all the other kings. They all report to him. He possesses unimaginable wealth, power, influence. By any material standard, he has everything a person could possibly desire. And yet, what defines him is not his power, it is his detachment. Because he clearly understands all of his opulence is temporary. He compares it to a dream. Something that appears real for a time, but ultimately disappears. And because of this clarity of his mind, he's not captivated by it. It's important for us because often we think that spiritual life means giving up everything externally. But here we see that real renunciation begins with vision. When we truly understand the temporary nature of material things, an attachment naturally loosens, just loosens in our heart. What makes Ambarish especially relevant for us is that he does not reject his position. He transforms it. And that's the essence of Yukta Vairagya. Yukta Vairagya means appropriate renunciation. Yukta means connected. You connect everything with Krishna. In that way you renounce your claim over it, your exploitative gaze over it. That's Yukta Vairagya. So he uses everything he has in Krishna's service. His wealth becomes a means of worship. His kingdom becomes an offering. His responsibilities, which he has to do, which he does, they become expressions of devotion. This is such a powerful lesson for us, especially for those of us living active lives in the world. We're not necessarily meant to walk away from everything. Rather, we are meant to bring Krishna into everything. Because you can't walk away from everything. It's not possible. So the real question is not, what do I have? But how am I using what I have? How am I using it? That's the question. So, one of the most beautiful descriptions in this chapter is how Maharaja Ambarish engaged every single one of his senses in Krishna's service. His mind, always absorbed in thinking of the Lord. His words used to glorify the Lord. His hands were engaged in service. His ears were always hearing about Krishna. His eyes were seeing the deity, seeing the holy places. His tongue was tasting prasadam. Even his sense of smell was engaged by smelling tulsi offered to the Lord. So what we see here is not suppression of the senses, but purification of the senses. Very often, spiritual life is misunderstood as denying or repressing our natural tendencies. But Ambarish Maharaj shows that the real solution is redirection. Everything belongs to Krishna. Use it in his service. When the senses are engaged in higher service, the lower desires naturally fade. Remember, lower desires are also natural, and higher desires are also natural. There's a higher nature and lower nature. Both are nature. Both are natural. But not everything that's natural is good for you. See? So just because we have a natural tendency to do something may be pleasurable, but it's destructive, doesn't mean we should do it. It's a lower nature. So we want to move toward our higher nature. Our soul, our heart is thirsting for this engagement. And that's what Ambarish showed us with this personal example. Day and night. Of course, he's a king. So, as a king, he's a leader. Another remarkable aspect of his life is that because of his example, his devotion is not just personal, private thing. It shaped the entire society. The one who's actually the head of state. Of course, modern societies, they try to separate the church and state and so on, and that's very understandable, and they do try it. But even in these kind of modern societies, people do look up to the leaders to see how they behave, their morality, if they have any religiosity, if they have spirituality. And some leaders, they try to portray themselves as going to church and this and that. But Ambarisa was not a pretender like that. He was a genuine devotee. And so his leadership sets the culture. The citizens in his kingdom were constantly hearing and chanting about the Lord, and he would support that. Devotional culture became the norm, not the exception. And as a result, people were so satisfied spiritually that they did not even aspire for heavenly enjoyment. They were so happy. This shows us what real leadership looks like. It's not just about managing people or maintaining order or getting things done. Leadership with a spiritual basis is about creating an environment where spiritual growth becomes natural. We can reflect on this in our own communities. What kind of culture are we creating around us? Say I'm a leader, or say I'm just volunteer coordinator, any kind of leadership position. Is the culture that I'm creating one that nourishes devotion? In my personal experience, looking at multiple congregations, I have seen how there is so much excitement and vibrance, where the leaders there are understanding and caring. They care for the people. And that's where we see congregations or groups doing really well. They're just so happy, and they're always eager to help each other because the leader sets the tone. Now, this is not the same in all places, by the way. It's unfortunate. Not every leader is the same level of compassion. But wherever you find that, you can see the vibrance. You can see the happiness and devotee smiles. You can see it. So the leadership does affect, in a deep way, the morale and the spiritual trajectory of the people. It's something for all of us to reflect on. Now, Ambarisa Maharaj, along with his queen, he observes the Ekadashi vow very carefully. Every Ekadashi for an entire year, very, very carefully, very strictly. Where he would observe like a couple of days. He would start fasting a couple of days before the actual Ekadashi, so make sure it's like totally solid, Hard to do. Especially you're a king, you're used to nice food always being offered to you. It's not easy. But he's such an advanced, pure devotee. So him and his wife both. This is not casual observance. It's not done just for health purposes. Of course, it has good health benefits and all, but that's not why we do it. We do it because it pleases the Lord. It's the day of Lord Hari. It reflects deep commitment. It reflects consistency. You feel like doing it, don't feel like doing it, doesn't matter. On that day, you fast. On that day, you chant deeper. You work a little bit harder in your spiritual life. Consistency. So spiritual life is not built on occasional bursts of enthusiasm. We've all had those. But spiritual success, it's built on steady, repeated practice. Right? Enthusiasm is the first one, utsaha. But then nishchaya and dhairya. Nishchaya means I'm going to keep pushing even though I may not be fully excited right now about it. And even if I'm not seeing any particular results right away, that's okay. I'm going to be patient. So utsaha, nishchaya, dhairya, patience. So it's this steady, repeated practice, the small disciplines performed consistently. They gradually transform the heart, because our heart is conditioned so deeply. We cannot shift that big rock in a day. It's just not possible. But you move it a little bit every day, a little nudge every day. And before you know it, you've moved it a mile. So that's where transformation happens, in the small daily disciplines. And then, just when everything seems to be going smoothly, a test arrives. Durvasa Muni appears at a very critical moment. And this is often how it works in our own lives as well, isn't it? Just when we're trying to do something sincerely, some unexpected challenge arises. I mean, I've just mustered up enough courage to do something good. And then some situation just takes all the air out of my balloon. Some challenge. Why now? Ambarish now faces a delicate situation. Of course, Durvasa had come. Ambarish said, please come, we'll break our fast together. Durvasa said, yeah, sure, I just need to go and take a dip in the river. I'll be back. He is facing a dilemma, a delicate situation. The time to break his fast is about to expire, and at the same time, the guest has not yet returned. Now remember, actually, it's, if you're a Vaishnava, it's considered an offense to eat grains on the day of Ekadashi. You broke Ekadashi. It's also an offense to not break your fast on Dwadashi. That's his dilemma. And be like, what, really? I thought you could also fast the next day. No, you have to break your fast the next day within a particular muhurta. Actually there's several muhurtas that are offered, several units of time that are available after sunrise. I wonder, why is that? Well, that's just the way Ekadashi is set up. But you know what this implies? It implies when you're worshipping Krishna and you're following Ekadashi, you then cannot also follow other kind of vratas for demigods. Like some people say, I fast on Mondays, or I fast on Thursdays for this particular god, or I fast on Wednesdays for this god to please this one, that one. I fast on Sundays. That is not possible if you're a Vaishnava. You just can't do it. Because sometimes, say you're fasting on Mondays. Every Monday I fast. I don't eat anything. No grains. Well, if Ekadashi was Sunday, you can't continue your Monday fasting. You have to break it on Monday morning. So, basically what this means is that if we are fasting for Krishna on Ekadashis, we don't need to worry about fasting on other times, because we have to break the fast on time as well, if you want the Ekadashi to work, to be properly accepted. So now Ambarish is a very delicate situation. The guest has not yet returned. If he eats grains or food before the guests arrive, it is an offense. How can you eat before your guest? No. If you're expecting a guest for breakfast, you don't eat before they come. That's considered pretty offensive. But if he fails to break the fast at the proper time, that is also a big violation, because you have to observe, the Dwadashi. This is the dilemma. And what is beautiful is how he handles it. He does not act impulsively. He consults with the learned brahmanas, and he carefully considers the situation, right? Finally, he takes a middle path. He says, is it okay if I just sip some water from a cup? I'll just drink a little water, which is considered breaking the fast, because he was doing Nirjala Ekadashi. He didn't drink any water all those couple of days. It's considered breaking the fast, considered eating in the sense of breaking the fast, but also not eating, because it's just a few drops of water. It's half a cup or something. It's a little bit. How is that eating, not really. Like you can drink water and it's considered, it's not rude to the guest. What does this teach us? This teaches us that advanced devotees are not rigid or mechanical. They are thoughtful. They're guided by seniors, those who are wise. They seek guidance. And they're humble in their decision making. So all that adds up. So it looked pretty good what he did. But of course, Durvasa, when he realizes what has happened, he becomes extremely angry. He has this mystic potency. He can see what's going on. If he wants to quickly check in on what's going on in the palace, he can see it. So then he came and he saw, wait, what's going on? He's a powerful mystic, but he's also known for his quick temper. Now here we see the danger of this kind of mystical or spiritual advancement without humility. He misinterprets Ambarisha's action and assumes arrogance when there is none. In his anger, he creates this fiery demon to destroy the king. Now, how is that commensurate with the offense? He said, no, I'm going to create a demon. It's going to burn you. This particular moment, it's a powerful reminder that even great abilities, great power, great influence, when it's not accompanied by softness of heart, all that can become destructive, massively. Something for us to cultivate, generosity of our assumptions. Sometimes when someone does something, we assume that, we could assume a few different ways. Oh, maybe he meant it in a good way. Maybe he meant it. No, definitely he meant it in a bad way. For sure. There's no other option. I know him. He's just a bad, arrogant guy. No. It's very important for us to be genuine and generous. Generous in our assumptions when we're trying to judge someone else's behavior. Especially if it can go either way. We should be very careful. And especially if it's kind of seems out of character for a person. Like Ambarisha is not known for being rude. He's known for being humble. Globally. So then why would Durvasa assume that in this particular case he's out of character and being, arrogant? It's very important for us to also exercise such caution. Then what happens? Now we see something extraordinary. This terrifying demon is there, and it's approaching. Maharaja Ambarisa, just like his father, Nabhag, very calm. He does not react with fear. He does not even try to defend himself. He does not even move. This is very similar to what Parikshit Maharaj did. He didn't try to counteract the curse. He just remains fixed in his devotion, like Prahlad Maharaj. And in that stillness, Krishna intervenes. The Sudarshan Chakra appears and just destroys the demon instantly. And then it begins chasing Durvasa Muni himself. This is such a powerful lesson. A devotee doesn't always need to fight his own battles. When one is sincerely surrendered, Krishna personally takes responsibilities. Durvasa now runs everywhere, seeking what? Protection from this blazing Sudarshan. He goes to Brahma. So Brahma says, I can't help you. Brahma is like the top demigod, right? So desperately he then goes to Lord Shiva, But Shiva says, I can't help you either. Sorry, this is Sudarshan we're talking about. I don't mess with that. I don't play with that. And finally he reaches Lord Vishnu, the owner of the Sudarshan Chakra. So at least, he says, my lord, I'm sorry, please call off your Sudarshan. Looks like it came from your finger. And here comes the heart of the entire chapter. Lord Vishnu tells him, I am completely under the control of my devotees. I cannot do anything either. What? This is one of the most profound statements in all of Scripture, actually. It tells us that Krishna is not conquered by power, knowledge, or austerity. He is conquered. He is conquered by love. Unconditional, selfless, pure, devotional love. And not only that, he refuses to intervene because the offense was committed against his devotee. So he directs Durvasa back to Ambarish Maharaj. You have to go back to Ambarish. You can't. I don't even have the power to stop Sudarshan here at this point. That must have confused Durvasa tremendously. So then Durvasa, he finally returns, completely humbled. He falls at the feet of Ambarish. And how does Ambarish respond? With compassion, with humility, with forgiveness. He doesn't take advantage of the situation. Instead, he prays for Durvasa's protection. This is the true nature of a Vaishnava. Not only are they protected by the Lord, but they become instrument of his mercy for others. There's a lot to take away from this story, but even just from this scene itself. You can see Ambarish did not fight. We know even Prahlad didn't fight with the elephants that came to trample him. Oh, he didn't fight with Holika. Right? We know Haridas Thakur didn't fight. Nabhag earlier on didn't fight for his right. So that is an interesting question sometimes that may arise. When do we fight? When do we not fight? See? So, something for us to think about. See, when it comes to himself or his own pleasure, even his own comforts or his own kingdom or his own personal things, like, doesn't matter. It's okay. We all have to die anyway. At some point we're going to die. It's not a big deal. If this is the will of the Lord, no problem. I have faith in the Lord that he'll protect me. Avashya rakhibe Krishna Vishwasa Palan. Even when Prahlad was about to be thrown from the mountain, he is telling the demons who are about to throw him that you cannot destroy me. The demon's like, oh no, we're going to destroy you. By the time we throw you off the mountain, you'll be dead. He said, no, you can only destroy my body at the most. You cannot destroy me. I'm the soul. The soul is indestructible. So it's very interesting. So the devotees tend to have that sense of fearlessness. Krishna is pleased by that. as we reflect on this chapter, one question naturally arises. What does Krishna value the most? Because we see, he's very powerful. So he doesn't value power. Not position. He has all the positions. Not even knowledge. He values the heart of a devotee. It pleases Krishna when a soul turns to him. It pleases Krishna when a soul wants to be more like Krishna wants him to be. It pleases Krishna to no end when a soul, when a person, any devotee takes some time and effort and energy to share this message of Krishna with others. In the Gita, in the 18th chapter, Krishna says, no one is more dear to me than one who shares this knowledge with the devotees. And just in case you might be doubting that maybe in the future he'll change his mind, he said no. In the next verse he says, and in the future no one should ever take that place. No one will be more dear. Number one is the one who gives this knowledge, Krishna consciousness, to others. That person is very dear to me. And Ambarisa was a preacher. He may not have been going out on book distribution, but he was a preacher by his personal example. Everybody looked up to him. So how does he do this? Oh, our king does it this way. We should be devotees just like him. So if our hearts are pure, Krishna will run after us. A Rasika Bhakta once asked, why do you think Krishna likes makhan, this butter? Well, because butter is very soft, and butter is the same on the outside, on the inside. It's the same color, the same texture. It's no different. So if our hearts are like butter and our behavior is like butter, in the sense that our external behavior is the same as our internal thoughts, if our external behavior is pure and full of integrity, honesty, truthfulness, and devotion, and our heart is full of devotion, then Krishna will go out of his way, crawling even as a baby, to steal that heart. He values the heart of a devotee the most. Maharaja Ambarisa did not try to control the world. He simply tried to serve Krishna with everything he had. And in doing so, he attained something far greater than control. He captured Krishna's heart, who controls everyone and everything. And Krishna himself declared here that he resides in the heart of such a devotee and that he cannot leave them. This is the ultimate goal of our spiritual journeys, my dear devotees. This is the final stage, to be pleasing to the Lord, to the extent that he doesn't leave us. He always protects us. Not just to know about God, not just to worship God, but to develop such a relationship that Krishna becomes inseparable from us. So as we reflect on this today, we can think very simply, where is my heart? And what is it attached to? Because wherever our heart goes, that is where Krishna will choose to reside. He says in the Gita, I'm in the hearts of everyone. But do we want a comfortable place for him to stay? Or a place where he'll just tolerating? And if even gradually, little by little, we begin to offer that heart to him, then one day, just like Ambarisa, we will find that Krishna has offered himself to us in return. Thank you very much for your kind attention and your valuable time. Let us, with with our full heart, always chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Ram
Rama
Ram
Rama.
Ram Hare Hare.
Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So I've
Hare
left enough
Krishna.
time if anyone has any comments or questions.
Okay, Hare Krishna, thank you, Prabhu, for a wonderful class. Could I go over to Gail Mataji? If you'd like to ask your question, please, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, everybody. Yes, when you were saying the Nawab, not Nawab. What was his name? Ambarisha's father. Yeah, and his brothers very unjustifiably denied him his share of inheritance. So Krishna has assigned a quota for everybody. And therefore, he would not have been wrong to fight for his share. So when is it right and when is it wrong to fight for one's share? I mean, I'm not talking about even for selfish reasons, you know? So, I'm just trying to understand his not fighting.
It's a good question. I was thinking of the same thing, especially if you look at the Gita. Because Krishna is telling Arjuna, you should fight. This is your right. This is your kingdom, isn't it?
Mm.
Why is he telling Arjuna to fight, and why is Nabhag and Ambarish and others, why are they glorified for not fighting? Nabhag is being cheated. He does not fight. Arjuna was cheated in the sense, Yudhishthira was cheated, and he was conflicted, and Krishna tells him to fight. So which is correct? The answer lies not in the action of fighting or not fighting, but in some deeper factors. So one is the dharma, which is his role. The other is his consciousness and motivation. And the other is the divine instruction. What's the context, right? So let's look at dharma. Nabhaga and Arjuna are not in the exact same situation. Nabhaga is functioning in a personal family inheritance situation. He's not defending society. He's not upholding justice for others. He's not acting as a protector of citizens. This is a private civil case, if you will. It's a private loss. Arjuna, on the other hand, is a Kshatriya on the battlefield where dharma itself is at stake. It's a systemic thing. Mm-hmm. It's not just personal. Mm-hmm. The Kaurava has taken his right to rule and administer justice, really. So Krishna's instruction is not that fight because you're angry. No, fight because you're the assigned upholder of dharma, the protector. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's one angle, right? Nabhaga's dharma did not require him to fight. Arjuna's dharma required him to fight. That's the key difference. Now, let's look at inner motivations. Even more than the external thing. Nabhag didn't fight because he's not attached to the property. He's not driven by ego. He trusts the higher arrangements. His avoidance of the fighting is not weakness. It is detachment and surrender. Arjuna, on the other hand, his avoidance of fighting, there are several reasons. We studied that when we learned Gita. Right? He's overwhelmed by emotion. He's attached to relationships. He doesn't want the discomfort. And Krishna challenges him precisely because his avoidance is coming from confusion, not realization. You see. So that's the motive on the inside. So those are some different angles to look at it this way. Now, the highest layer of this consideration would be, is it divine will, personal preference? Right? Nabhaga is acting under guidance from his father. He got the guidance from his father. And then he ultimately aligns with the truth when he's tested by Lord Shiva. So he keeps submitting to higher authority. See, so that is his authority. Arjuna also receives instruction from his authority, Krishna. So then the question can be raised, am I acting based on my own impulses, or is it based on higher guidance and dharma? Am I really seeking guidance from some authorities? You see, that's also an important factor in both these comparisons. You know? So when should I fight, when should I not fight? When you're protecting dharma and not your ego, then fight. If you have specific responsibility toward others, like Arjuna had, then fight. If injustice is going to spread, if you're passive, then you have to fight. You see, if you're guided by higher principles, by higher authorities, not personal impulse, then fight. It's better not to fight when the issue is personal loss or even insult. Forget it. Who cares? I'm insulted. I have to, defend my honor. No, forget it. If your fighting is driven by entitlement and ego, then we don't want that. So sometimes the higher arrangement, typically actually, it unfolds through patience, especially when it's our own ego and things like that. So those are some of the considerations we have to weigh when making that decision. Okay?
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Gilma.
Thank you.
You always asked some very deep questions. I really appreciate your questions a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sadhu Mataji, would you like to ask your question, please? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, and thank you very much for today. I'm kind of confused because, as you say, Durvasa Muni could see, because he was a mystic man, so he could see that Ambarish had ate something, break his fast. Couldn't he see that Ambarish has done it by asking his guru, his how to say, spiritual master, that is it okay to break my fast? And it was him who gave this advice. Yes, you can just take water, it's okay. So how come he couldn't see that?
Yeah. That's a great question. Thank you, Sadhu Didi. So at one level, yes, Durvasa Muni had the mystic power. He could see that Ambarish had drunk water. Bhagavatam makes it clear. The deeper point is this: he could see the action, but he could not perceive the heart. The fact that he had checked with the Brahmanas was irrelevant to him. You see, mystic power, like Durvasa, he could travel across the universe and stuff like that. Mystic power does not equal the purity of heart. Sometimes when your heart is not pure, you only see what you want to see, and you refuse to see what needs to be seen. You just decide to be angry, and you want to then kind of fan your own anger, because he indulged in anger. You see, so Durvasa, he saw that he drank water. He didn't see that he did it with hesitation, with consultation, with devotion. His motive was just so that he could keep the vrata. See, now another lesson for us to learn is that anger distorts our perception. That's very human. When we allow anger, see, lust, greed, anger, envy, when they're in our heart, intelligence goes out. Intelligence and anger cannot stay at the same time. It's either you have intelligence or you have anger. Same thing with lust. Either you have lust or you have intelligence. You can't have both. If lust takes over, the intelligence goes out. That's why we see these Rhodes Scholar presidents and all, and prime ministers and heads of state. And when the lust takes over, they don't care how big a scandal is going to be, because intelligence cannot be there at the same time. You just toss it out the window. Same thing, lust, greed, anger, envy. So what happened to Durvasa was, his ego was very solid. It's very human, by the way. This is something to see. It's relatable. We can relate to it with Durvasa. First of all, he already had a temper of quick anger, right? Temperament. And once that emotion was triggered, his perception became filtered. When the mind becomes disturbed by anger, we assume motives. We start shouting, we start yapping, and we assume the other guy was just, motive was wrong. We jump to conclusions. We interpret actions negative. Like I said, we're not generous with our assumptions. Even in our own lives, this happens constantly. And if we keep giving a barrage, it's very hard to take those words back. And those are the kind of episodes that can break hearts and break relationships. Marriages break apart because of a bout of anger, because of misplaced assumptions. Because when anger comes up, I mean, this is very real, you know. Instead of asking, let me understand what happened, he said, this is an offense. That jump tells us that his ego, his identity is a powerful stage. This sage is very present, you see. Now contrast with Ambarisha's consciousness. Ambarisha was in an impossible situation. Honor the guest or honor the vow. What did he do? He actually did both. He consulted the brahmanas, this, that. He remained mentally absorbed in Krishna. He prayed. So it shows that even in a tight spot, the extraordinary clarity of Ambarish. You see, when devotion is there, intelligence is not lost. When anger is there, intelligence is lost. When devotion is there, intelligence gets sharpened. You see, heart gets softened, intelligence gets sharpened. You ask the right people, you do the right things, generally speaking, because your motive is right. You see. You can also ask, why didn't just Krishna reveal Ambarisha's intention to Durvasa? He could have revealed him. Yeah, Krishna could have done it and avoided the whole thing altogether. Of course, the purpose of this pastime is to show us something profound, that even great yogis can misunderstand a devotee, that even great power can fail before bhakti. See, and we cannot understand devotee very easily, so we have to be careful when we're judging a devotee. It's very important. So don't judge a devotee's heart based on a moment you don't fully understand. Because even Durvasa Muni made that mistake. Is that okay? Sadhvi? Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much.
So Mataji, you did have your hand up. Would you like to ask a question? Or
Yeah, just one observation. Hare Krishna. Can you hear me?
we can hear you,
Yeah.
Mataji.
Amrish Maharaj was fasting Ekadasi. What about Durvasa Muni? He didn't fast for Ekadasi.
He was fasting too. That's probably why he was a little angry. Hangry. No, he was fasting too, but the thing is, it's time for him to break the fast. He probably wasn't watching his timings that well. It's possible. You know, he was too busy getting angry all the time. So it's very possible that he could have just been breaking his fast in the river, you know, with his sip of water. We don't know. But it's possible that he was fasting. It's an interesting angle. Yes, thank you.
And one of the translation of Shloka 64, Krishna is saying, "O best of Brahmanas, without saintly persons for whom I am only the destination, I do not desire to enjoy my transcendental bliss and my supreme up." Why is he referring to Durvasa Muni as best of the Brahmanas?
That's one of his titles. Like Durvasa Muni is such an accomplished person, you know. So because he's accomplished in so many Brahminical, so many studies and this and that, he was a master at so much, so he would give him the title. Sometimes Krishna also uses sarcasm.
Okay.
Like Prahlad Maharaj does the same thing. You know,
To Hiranyakashipu.
Yeah, Hiranyakashipu says, "Oh, best of the demons," you know, right? Asura Varajya. And it's somewhat sarcastic, but also you actually are that. And it's trying to point out, even though you are the best of Brahma, you still didn't get it. Like, what's going on? You know? Yes.
Okay. And sorry, can I just
yeah, sure. There's a couple of other hands waiting behind in line, Mataji. So
okay. One more. Just
sure.
In the purport for text 65, at the end, it says, for attraction for wife, family, home, etc. Then in the last sentence, it says, like, for such a devotee, the Lord makes special arrangement to take away the objects of his false attachment and thus free him from attachment to wife, home, children, family, friends, and so on. This is a special mercy bestowed upon the devotee to bring him back home, back to Godhead. So, like your family members might be devotees, and obviously you have natural attachment for them.
Yes.
So how does this apply then? How what?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about. Many of
Okay.
my students will tell you that. See,
Okay.
when Mother is smiling, Eddie is smiling. If you look at the Bhagavad Gita in the 13th chapter, from verses 8 through 12, there's a section where Krishna lists items of knowledge. In that section, Krishna says one of the items of knowledge, one of the items is detachment from family, wife, children, etc. This is an item of knowledge. If you go to the purport where Prabhupada explains this, and I urge everyone to look it up, it's really beautiful. Prabhupada does say that as for family, children, wife, home, etc., it is not that one should have no affection for these, attraction for these. These are natural objects of affection. See, and he says then to make a life, family life happy, you just do 4 things. You chant Hare Krishna, you worship the deity, you read Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, and you offer bhoga, and you take prasadam. If you do these 4 things, your family life will be so happy you don't need to leave them. You don't need to develop detachment from them. See, so he gives the key. So if you're already doing that, there's no need to run away. In fact, you'd be better staying with them because that gives you structure, strength. So if your family is already very conducive, very supportive, there's no need. But these kind of injunctions, they're meant for when the family is either not supportive or antagonistic, or family members are like you have developed such a strong selfish mentality towards them yourself that you should abandon that. These are Krishna's people. These are not for you to enjoy and exploit your family members. Try to be a devotee. Don't try to be a exploiter of your own family. This is to help with that kind of mentality, you see. But if you're already very healthily moving towards Krishna together, there's really no need to become antagonistic or to now artificially say I don't need affection to my family. Ultimately, we have to give up that internal connection to the family as well. Queen Kunti in her prayers, you're familiar with Queen Kunti's prayers in the beginning, where she prays that, my dear Krishna, please cut my ties of affection. Pandushu Vrishnishu. Pandushu means my husband's side of the family, and Vrishnishu means my father's side of the family. The Pandus and the Vrishnis are both pure devotees. They're wonderful devotees. Yet she's praying, please let me not be attached to them. Why? Not that she wants to give up their company. No, that's not what she's asking. She's saying that every time I see them, I don't see that this is a devotee of Krishna and then my son. No, first this is my son, then devotee of Krishna, and I want that my part to come out. I'm only yours. You should be my first love, Krishna. I want you to be that position. Therefore, you see, understand? It's not that I should now start being cold. I wish they were far away from me. No, I love hanging out with my boys. They chant Krishna's name. It's wonderful. But Krishna, please free me from this ego that they're mine, that this is my son who's a devotee. No, your devotee happens to be my son. Let me think of you, Krishna, first. You understand the difference? It's subtle, but it's right there in the Queen Kunti's prayers. So definitely look it up. And the chat, Venu Madhuri Mataji has kindly put in the reference from the Bhagavad Gita, so you can refer to that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. All right.
Thank you, Mataji. And Janakanya Mataji, would you like to ask your question? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for a most amazing class full of richness and lots of questions, but we haven't got time. Everybody wants to have their part in partaking. Anyway, I'm just wondering why all these austere practice on Ekadashi and not every day. We should be, according to the teachings, and you're talking about these spiritual personalities practicing like that. It was then and now. How about us living in material world? It's kind of confusing in a way, because we are encouraged, according to Prabhupada, to get married, live in the material world, and still practice. Is it possible to live in a totally clean life without contamination in the material world? And to top what was talking about justice, perhaps you can touch on tolerance versus justice.
Okay, that's like 5 questions. Okay.
Sorry.
I'll try to see what I can remember and address those, okay?
Yeah, okay, thanks.
All right. That's a lot. Okay. Ekadashi. Why not do it every day? Why have something like Ekadashi as a special day? So the answer lies in our level of conditioning. Human psychology, human physiology, sustainability, rhythm. We need intensity in our lives, but intensity needs rhythm. You know, spiritual life is not meant to be constant extreme. If we try to live at the highest level of austerity every single day, then one of 2 things can happen. 1, we may burn out because it's unreasonable for our conditioned state. Or 2, we may become mechanical. So what Ekadashi does, it creates a sacred rhythm. It's like a spiritual pulse in our life. Most days you do steady practice, and Ekadashi you do intentional intensification. You see, that contrast deepens the experience. Think of it like rhythm of music. If every note is loud, nothing stands out. You know how sometimes the music goes loud and then soft again if you heard classical. But when there's variation, the beauty comes alive. It's a rhythm. Even when someone is speaking, if the person speaking is the same monotone, you can't listen to them for too long. It's so boring. So the Ekadashi also has a special significance itself. Ekadashi means 11. 11 days after the full moon, 11 days after new moon. So it's in line with our cycles of the moon. The moon has a good rhythm with our body too, by the way. You know, that's why when the moon is full, it affects our mind certain ways. So 11 days after that. Also, 11 represents, you know, it controls your 5 senses plus the 5 sense objects and the mind. So 5, 5, and 1, that's 11. So it helps you control all those things. That's where Ekadashi comes in, right? So it's a lot of different angles by Ekadashi in particular. On Ekadashi, you become more alert, become more intentional, become more reflective. It becomes a day when we consciously step back from our routine and say, today, I'm going to remember Krishna more deliberately. Now, what happens, it trains you to be like that daily. But if you have 1 day or 2 days in a month that does that, then you boost yourself beyond your comfort zone, at least for a little bit. And then as you do it more and more, you realize, actually, I should be doing it every day, you know? So it becomes natural. You see, it puts you, and it's like a workout, you know? 1 day you push yourself a little bit more than your normal weight, and that's it makes your muscles stronger. And all of a sudden now that becomes the new normal. So similarly, the level of love, level of intense thinking, turning to the Lord, that becomes the new normal. So it kind of works with our body, it works with our cycles, and so on and so forth. That's why it's kind of very healthy to do that. Also, you might have known around, I think 2018 or 2017, the Nobel Prize in Medicine went to these Japanese researchers who discovered that if you fast twice a month, every 15 days, it boosts your these certain cells, T cells, in such a substantial way that it just reduces your chance of getting cancer by like 90+%. Like it just kills your chance of cancer. So if you fast on Ekadashi completely, regularly, your cancer chances go way down. So these are amazing things that they're discovering in research. You know what I'm saying? And it shows that it's in line with our scripture. So there's many reasons why Ekadashi has that particular cadence and rhythm. But look like Dhruv Maharaj, he fasted so intensely. Not just Ekadashi, he just went day after day after day. He was even just taking a breath every 3 days. So we can't imitate someone like that, but it's possible. He just moves really quickly through that whole thing. We don't need to do that. We just need to do this normal, avoiding the grains and beans, and pray to the Lord. Our main job is to please the Lord. Lord is pleased by this endeavor. Our process is not intense austerity. Our process is susukam kartam aveyam. Take prasadam, dance, chant, and go back to Godhead. It really it's pleasing to the soul from day one. And when we die, we don't die. We transition to Krishna's planet. So it's a very sweet process. All right, Janukanya.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, we have one more.
Go ahead, Vidisha Mataji. Thank you very much, Janakanya Mataji, for that wonderful question. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you for this beautiful class. So my question is related to what Kusuma and Sadhvi Mataji discussed a little bit. And do forgive me for my ignorance if I'm not able to construct the question properly. So in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, it states that the real knowledge culminates in devotion to Krishna. And there are many qualities of knowledge, but devotion is the most important one. And accordingly, Krishna gives us with humility, nonviolence, tolerance, and simplicity. So here when we, and Durvasa Muni is a very powerful sage. And when we compare him with Ambarish Maharaj, we are able to see that he is showing real nonviolence, not causing suffering to Durvasa Muni in any way, whereas Durvasa Muni is doing that. Ambarish Maharaj is showing real tolerance despite insult, opposition, or any kind of difficulty. Durvasa Muni is not showing tolerance. And also spiritually, even though he is a very exalted person, he's showing less humility. He's kind of looking for more respect and other things from Ambarish Maharaj when both are practicing Ekadasi, serving Krishna. So in this chapter or in this context, are we saying like Ambarish Maharaj played a bigger spiritual role than Durvasa Muni?
Actually, Vidisha, that's a great question. It kind of touches upon a very important question that many people who are observing us from the outside ask also. Especially, say, I take up Krishna consciousness, I've just started doing it. And then someone says, hey, I thought you are Hare Krishna, how come you get angry so easily? What kind of devotee are you? People think that just because I've taken up some spiritual process, I should be perfect within a week or two or within a year in every way. That I'll be completely free from these things, So yes, at a surface level, it looked like we're comparing two devotees and concluding that one is greater than the other. But this episode, what the Bhagavatam is doing, is actually more subtle and more instructive than just ranking. Okay, this is a top-class devotee and this is, okay, a low-class devotee. No. Like you mentioned in the Gita, right? Chapter 13. Humility, tolerance, nonviolence, simplicity, freedom from pride. That's the standard given by Krishna. It's very clear.
Yeah.
So spiritual advancement, you measure it by transformation of character, not accumulation of power. Right? That's pretty clear. Now if you look at Durvasa and Ambarish through that lens, the contrast is very clear. Durvasa is powerful, he's highly learned, spiritually advanced. But at this moment, what comes out? Anger, intolerance, quick judgment.
Right.
Ambarish, he didn't have the mystic power. He doesn't retaliate. What do we see? Patience, humility, steadiness, non-violence, even when he's attacked. So, yes, if you use Krishna's definition, Ambarish is demonstrating what we call real knowledge more perfectly, right? It's very clear. So are both devotees? Yes, but they are different stages. It's important to be balanced here. Durvasa is not an ordinary person. He's a great sage and devotee.
Right.
But like many powerful personalities in the Bhagavatam, he represents a stage where there is advancement, but not complete purification of the ego. And Ambarish represents something more refined. He represents the pure devotion, Shuddha Bhakti. So, you know, instead of saying Durvasa is not a devotee, better way to say this is that Durvasa represents devotion that's mixed with power and ego tendencies. Ambarish represents devotion that is purified of those tendencies. So now, what's the decision in this? Krishna himself, in this chapter, he doesn't say, in this chapter Krishna speaks, right? He doesn't say Durvasa is wrong, Ambarish is right, in a moral sense. He says something deeper. He says, I am controlled by my devotees. And he refuses to protect Durvasa until Durvasa goes back to Ambarish. This is not a small statement. This is Krishna revealing to us that the devotee who embodies humility and tolerance and surrender, he has a special place even above great mystics. So instead of thinking in terms of bigger or smaller role, it's more accurate to say that they're playing different roles and revealing different truths. You see, like you said, bigger or small role. No, Durvasa, he is revealing the limitation of power without humility, and Ambarish is revealing the perfection of devotion. So it's not, he's the embodiment of that teaching. And this is all for us. Everything in this Bhagavatam is for us to reflect on ourselves. Where am I? What do I learn from it? What can I change about myself? Can I reflect more deeply? What about this scenario here? Is it similar to what I'm facing in life? And so on and so forth. That's the invitation that we see here. Right, Bidisha?
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all very
Okay.
much.
Thank you, Prabhu. And I'd like to thank all the devotees who've joined from overseas as well. Thank you for joining. If we can all kindly unmute and say our 3 Hari Bols. Haribol!
Haribol! Haribol!
Thank you very
Prabhu,
much for today. Hare
if I
Krishna.
if I can ask Prabhuji, would you like to say the final prayers, which I'll just share with you? And if everyone can stay on mute while Prabhuji reads these. Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna. Over to you, Prabhu.
So, thank you very much. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhuyevacha patitana pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaurande. Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Hare
Krishna.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Wonderful class.
Prabhu
Hare Krishna,
ki
everyone.
jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hari Hari Bol.
Prabhu ki
See
jai.
some.
Hari bol, hari bol.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Wonderful, wonderful class. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
you.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna. Eddie Prabhu, if you got a question, I'm happy to take it. I think you were trying to speak or something. I'm not sure. You're on mute at the moment. You're still on mute, Prabhu. Just in case. It's on the left-hand side on the bottom of your screen to unmute. Where you see audio, there should be a sign that says audio, and if you click on that, I'll send you something actually.
Oh,
Got it. You're on.
did I get it?
You're perfect.
Oh my gosh. I'm so used to being on the big computer and my little tiny iPad, which goes at my speed. I haven't been on Zoom in it for quite a long time, but no,
Yeah.
I wanted to just Hare Krishna and thank Gurudev for a most enlightening moment, because, you know, I have been holding on to something very stupid. And I can't remember what day of Ekadashi it was, but it was in the beginning of last year. We joppaed, then we were in prayer. I got a little deep in prayer. Everybody was already standing up. I didn't know what was even going on around me. I was just in prayer. So Dravida, our Gita teacher, he came over and touched me on the shoulder, and he said, "You need to stand up. This is very important, Eddie." So the only person that because there were so many men, it was one on the wall and one right in front through the whole temple there on that wall. So I stood up behind this one fellow that had already told me that I freak him out. I don't know what it is. I've never really had a conversation with him, but he literally pushed me forward in the temple. And I wanted to turn around and say, "Oh, who do you think you are?" And then I thought, "Oh, Dravida, oh, Krishna, oh, Gurudev, calm my spirit, because I have been highly reactive in life, and now I'm starting to settle it down. But here I am. I wrote, well, I haven't forgiven him. I don't like to see him in rooms when I'm in the room, but it's like, should I ever approach him, or should I just leave him alone? Because it's a
I think Prabhu, forgiveness is a fantastic thing, and this is, if you think about it, this could be Krishna testing you, really, to see your humility yourself, if you know what I mean. So it's always to take it back and say, this is Krishna's mercy that's bestowed on you, and how are you reacting to that particular episode? So it's easy to let the ego flow, right? But we should, from our consciousness perspective, keep it tightened as much as we can. And I think it's all right for me to say, because I fall in that trap too. And I did have a question on that particular. I did have a question, and I thought, because there's too many questions asked, I left it, because I usually try to keep one. And my question is, how do we as devotees put ourselves under check to ensure we stay, our humility is there? And that was my question, but I thought I'm not going to ask it. But yeah, I think we should really try our best. And it's easy to slide, okay? But what's going to happen? What's the worst case scenario? That person's not going to, may just ignore it. But you've done your bit, and you've got the high ground, should I say?
But really, it disturbs me when he's in kirtan.
Yeah,
with us. I'm like, because he doesn't show up all the time.
Yeah,
and
what you see, what I think maybe you need to do is write to yourself, what is it that gets you to that level, and then answer yourself as well, like a memorandum to yourself in a sense. And it always does, for me, it helps sometimes to sort of reflect on emotions and things like that. And I don't know whether that's something that you might want to consider, or whether you've done that in the past.
Oh, I have. I've been highly reactive. Friends that I've had that will not stand up for themselves. Throughout my whole life, I've stood up for them. And normally it is a situation where somebody's either taking advantage or trying to hurt them, or pushing them in a way. And what I believe I was hearing is that you have to know when to fight, not really fight, but stand up and say, this is enough. This is not right.
Yeah.
So anyways, but my gosh, thank you.